Yo, what's going on guys? It's Leo and it's my second video, and if you guys have watched my first video sharing how I use Things 3 in my daily workflow, then you must know I own an iPad Pro 2018 12.9-inch as my computer. I actually use it as my primary and only computer for the last 2 months. It's actually kind of like a trying to see how far I can go to just use an iPad as my primary computer. Here's my experience and the reason why I don't recommend doing so. So I'm not really sure, but it seems like ever since the announcement of the first generation of the iPad, then the endless discussion over the hot topic, can you replace your laptop with an iPad, has never ended. And this topic has seemed to become even more popular after the announcement of the first generation of the iPad Pro. Because what's also announced along with the first generation of the iPad Pro is the smart keyboard, the first generation Apple Pencil, and a very powerful mobile chip, A9X, which claims to be more powerful than 90% of those ultra light portable notebook. I had the iPad Pro 2018 12.9-inch, so the smart keyboard and the second generation Apple Pencil is like a must-have for me. So my personal experience is like the smart keyboard is something really good. First of all, it is a case and it works as a kind of protection as a case for your iPad Pro. And then it doubles down as a keyboard. And it's really convenient, but the typing experience is not really good, and that's the only thing that I don't like about it. It's really convenient when you occasionally need to type something out, but it's not comfortable for long-term use. And for the Apple Pencil, it's hands down the best pen I've ever used in any digital devices. Look, personally, I haven't used many pens like the Apple Pencil on other digital devices. Like, I haven't used the solutions, the options from Logitech, and I haven't used any Wacom tablet because Wacom tablet are apparently very, very popular for digital artists. And I'm personally not a digital artist, so I don't use those Wacom tablet, but the Apple Pencil experience for me is really, really good. It's nearly perfect. I just couldn't see any room for the Apple Pencil to improve themselves. Like, the experience is so good. It's just so good. The Apple Pencil is really, really good. I really like it. And the smart keyboard and the Apple Pencil are all newly designed products for the latest version of the iPad Pro. So they are like a bit better than previous models. They fix some small issues those users like came across on those older version of the smart keyboard and Apple Pencil. And then there is the A12X, which is absolutely a beast. If you just look at the numbers, it'll blow your mind, you know. It's like more powerful than 90% of those light and portable computer if you just look at the numbers. So by saying all that, what I want to express is that if you want to use your iPad as a primary computer, then you should not worry about the hardware at all. So there must be something wrong with the software. So here are my two biggest frustrations about the iPad during my last 2 months of using the iPad as my primary computer, and they're all about software. The first one, and it's a really fundamental one, there isn't a proper, robust enough, system-wide cursor support. And this is really, really important. Because usually when you start working, you keep doing it for several hours, and using trackpad and a mouse is a much more ergonomic way to work. Your hand, your wrist, your fingers, and your arms are supported by something. Like, your arms are supported by the desk, and your fingers and wrists are supported by the mouse. So if you're comfortable working for a very long time using a trackpad and a mouse. And the cursor system on the traditional desktop OS like Linux, like Mac OS, like Windows, has proven itself over the last decades that it is efficient, it is comfortable, it is accurate, and it's fast. But that's not the case with touch input. And actually, if you use your iPad as just a tablet, not a computer, you don't use it with any external keyboard, you do all those actions on the touch screen with touch input, it's actually okay. Because when you place your iPad on the desk, your hand and your arms are also supported by the iPad itself, so you don't feel tired or feel sore using it for a long term. But that means you have to use the virtual keyboard built in the iPad OS to input all those text, and that's really bad because the speed and efficiency and experience of typing on a virtual keyboard is not good. And there is a lot of work, as you know, that requires a lot of typing. It's not just about typing words, it's about using keyboard shortcut or using a specific function in the software. So you need an external keyboard to get some work done. So you're gonna want an external keyboard. But once you start using your iPad with an external keyboard, you're gonna have to use your iPad or navigate through the entire system with a very unergonomic way. To raise your hand, reach up to the screen, and touch. I don't need to explain too much on that. It's not comfortable, it's not efficient, and it'll be good if you can keep doing that for just an hour. Even though the latest iPad OS allows you to, in some way, use the mouse with your iPad, but it's not a proper mouse support because technically it is not a mouse support at all. Essentially, it is just simulating the touch input of a real finger. So the benefit of the so-called mouse support is actually it allows you to use your iPad with a more comfortable way, and it is more accurate. So I mean, the fake mouse support, I can kind of take it, but for the next frustration, it's unacceptable to me. That is software. I mean, those apps. I still remember the excitement when I heard that Adobe is bringing real Photoshop to the iPad. And when I find that there are such powerful apps like Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, and LumaFusion that are out there exist in the iPad App Store. And then I just share my excitement with those friends around me who are also a tech enthusiast, telling them, I think the iPad is going to be a proper productivity tool in the future. Yes, in the future, but not now. By the time when I know that there are apps like Affinity Photo and LumaFusion on the iPad, I didn't have my own iPad actually. And then 2 or 3 months ago, I bought my first iPad, and that's the iPad Pro 2018, 12.9 inch. And the second I got my hands on the iPad, I installed those apps immediately. And then in later usage of my iPad Pro, I was always actively looking for opportunities to put these apps into use and see how powerful they are. And I must admit that these apps, these professional apps, compared to other apps that are out there in the iPad App Store, they are indeed more powerful. And the more I use them, the more limitations I start to notice in these applications. And my experience is that Affinity Photo does offer a fairly powerful set of features, but all those features just feels, or the overall applications feel somewhat basic. And in LumaFusion, you can do some basic editing, basic transition, basic color correction, but you cannot do color grading. And if you want to do that, you need to use LUTs. You cannot create your own LUTs right within the LumaFusion app. Definitely adds a lot more complexity in your video editing workflow. And in the area of document processing, the best options out there are like the Office suite from Microsoft for the iPad, and the iWork from Apple for the iPad, and some web-based solutions like Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides, and the online free version of Microsoft Office. But they're not good to use at all. These iPad version of those really famous suite of apps only offers a really basic set of features. And for those web-based solutions, they are designed for cursor input, so their user interface are actually really unfriendly to touch input. And most importantly, in the workflow like word processing, which requires a lot of precise input, copy and paste, and modification, I don't want to use my finger to do these works at all. It's going to be really tiring, really painful, and inefficient. Trust me, I tried that. And that's basically the two biggest frustration of me using my iPad Pro as my primary and only computer in the last 2 months. It's kind of like a trying, like a risky one, a risky try. But I'm still really looking forward to the future of the iPad. In previous WWDCs, the overall keynote basically can breaks down to 4 parts: tvOS, watchOS, iOS, and macOS. And as you know, the iOS covers 2 product lineup of Apple, the iPad and the iPhone. So Apple can kind of get away with it if they don't bring any major new feature changes to the iPad lineup. They can get away with it. But it's different this year in WWDC 2019. Apple is trying to differentiate the software on the iPad from the software on the iPhone by giving it a separate name, iPadOS. And I believe iPadOS has become the 5th new section of a WWDC. That means Apple can't get away with it like it used to, like bringing no major feature changes to the iPad. Now, with the new 5th iPadOS section in the WWDC, they have to bring something new every year. And that means something big. That means the software of the iPad is finally going to evolve and improve itself in a much, much faster pace than it used to be. And that's really good. And if you think about how good the latest version of the iPad Pro is, you think about the potential of this piece of hardware, you think about the new WWDC and the new iPadOS section. The future of the iPad is so exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. Alright, so that's all for this video. Hope you like it and see you guys in the next one.